Up next is Norm Young. Norm is a data architect and IT manager and current MVP?
Current MVP.
Current MVP. All right, Norm, take it away.
Thanks, Jason. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to my 50-minute digital transformation. So what the heck is a digital transformation? It means something different to almost everyone. You hear it thrown around with terms like cloud and big data. But in this 15-minute session, we'll show you how it's possible to digitally transform a manual process into a modern online solution where resources are centralized and manual tasks are automated. Best of all, you don't need IT and you already have the tools that you need. SharePoint and Power Automate will be showcased using out-of-the-box functionality and a no-code maker approach to digital transformation for our scenario. So another introduction, Norm Young. I'm from St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And that's okay if you don't know where St. Catharines is. But to give you a reference point, I'm 15 minutes from Niagara Falls and about an hour from Toronto. I'm a current Microsoft MVP in the Office Apps and Services space, and I'm currently working at Brock University as a data architect. SharePoint and Power Automate don't really tie back to the data architect role, but I got to start in Office 365 supporting business intelligence and Power BI, and one thing led to another, then the Power Platform, and then SharePoint. And in the SharePoint space, I found a lot of professional satisfaction, building solutions and bringing value to my users. My favorite topics at work are anything with a SharePoint list and Power Automate. I'd love to connect with you. You can find me on my personal website at normyoung.ca, on LinkedIn at norm-young, or on Twitter at stormond_30. Thank you, Philly, for having me at this event. I have such fond memories of going to Philly for a road trip when I was at university. And the opportunity to be here virtually was something that brings a smile to my face. A special thanks to the sponsors making this possible: the Tri-State Office 365 Users Group, Soho Dragon, and the Tech Platform. The investment in SharePoint lists continues to grow. And with recent announcement by Microsoft, lists will become its own application with more features and functionality promised in the very near future. Lists are great for storing and collaborating on business data for teams. When combined with the dozens of Power Automate triggers and actions, lists become a legitimate solution platform for IT pros and citizens developers. When there is no app for that scenario, lists and Power Automate can be used to develop solutions when business processes are left behind from ERP and large application implementations. To be clear, lists are not databases. They should not be used for highly complex workloads. They should be used when users and business processes have opportunities to add value through centralization and automation. In the scenario that we're going to cover off in the 50-minute digital transformation, we are going to be looking at a university's exchange agreement program. Exchange programs are set up between schools. They are a very informal contract that allows students from one institution to come to the other to receive credit, and the others go back. I've seen this scenario 3 times in my own working experience. And there's some very common elements and themes that repeat throughout. They've always been managed by a single user from their desktop computer. They've had agreements that have expired in the past. It is a 100% manual process with zero insights as to what is happening with the agreements and who's managing what. In all of the scenarios that I've encountered around exchange agreements, the catalyst has always been a larger team taking over that single process from a single user. And in this case, our exchange agreements team is new to SharePoint and new to Microsoft 365. At a minimum, our team needs reminder emails, different owners to split and share the work. They need the ability to view and share status updates. They also want basic insights by country. They want to quickly know what is expired. They want quick info in any form of ad hoc reporting that they can do to make their lives easier. Throughout the demo, I will have reoccurring themes or things that I like to use as guiding principles that I bring to my work in building up solutions for my users. And the first is that I'm going to use all the tools in my digital toolbox to empower my users. And I'm not going to put the tool in front of the problem. And I'm going to use those Office 365 groups and Power Automate to be the glue that binds those various Office 365 apps together in a single solution. I'll use simplicity of design to guide me when creating. We're going to jump out of the presentation right now and get straight into demos. I'm in Microsoft 365 and I'm going to create, whoops, I am not going to create a site just yet. What I need to do is that I've inherited an Excel spreadsheet that includes some legacy data and reflects the legacy business process. I want to bring that Excel spreadsheet into Microsoft 365 as a list. To do that, I have to make sure that the data is formatted as a table. I'll go home, format as table, and now I have a table definition that SharePoint can use on the import. I'll use this time as an opportunity to clean up the data. We'll see that the school name is going to be free text, and that's fine. But when I come to columns like exchange type or country and city, these things would be better served as lookup columns. But I see that I have some data issues, and I'll just use Excel to do it. I'm a data architect. I'm used to doing this type of work in Power BI or SQL Server integrations services tools here, and it's quick. I'm going to use it because it's going to bring value to my users faster. So I'm going to change UG from the short form to the undergraduate and graduate to there. I'll clear my filter. Everything else, starting dates, creation dates, ending dates, everything else is a number and it's all good. I'll look to country and I'm going through and I'm looking for data that just doesn't make sense. Last time I heard, the country of Milan doesn't exist, and that's actually in Italy. So data quality, if anyone has ever done any type of work in business intelligence, good data in means good information out. Bad data in, bad data out. And the same thing applies in the SharePoint space as well. Let's take a look at city. Everything looks good so far. Excellent. Yep, that's all good. And there's a mistake. Spanish is not Spain. There we go. So I have clean data and it's been formatted as a table. It is ready to be imported up. So I'm going to save that off as data. Close that off. Now I'm going to jump back into Microsoft 365. I'm going to create a new Office 365 backed group SharePoint site. Create site. Team. And we'll call this demo. Oh, no, we're not going to. Philly. We're going to call this one Philly Exchange. Boom, boom, boom. It's all good. We're clicking next. This is such a basic operation to do in Microsoft 365, but it's one of the most important things that we can do. We're bringing all the goodness with that Microsoft 365 group as the hub to what will later be our wheel. We'll have spokes from that hub in the form of lists and Power Automate and other types of assets, and the rim will glue it all together. It's a wonderful construct, and it's one that we'll use to glue everything together. Okay, so now we are going to import that list. This is a relatively new feature to SharePoint Online, and it's one that I quite enjoy because it brings so much value to users faster. I'm going to go to Site Contents. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to click List. Most of us will be used to the new option. Some of us might be used to the from an existing list, but from Excel is relatively new. But before you do that, I missed one key step. I need to get that file into my SharePoint site. So pardon me while I upload that from my desktop. Excellent, so that's online. Now I can come back. All right, it's not seeing it, so let me try this again. New, list, from Excel. It's there, don't know why it wasn't seeing it. List, from Excel. There it is. Sorry about that. I guess I have a caching issue on my end, and I'm going to create my list as Exchange. I'm going to choose it from the document library that I uploaded the file to, and I'm going to click Next. At this point, it's interrogating the Excel listing, and it's going to try and best determine which data types are available. So as this is loading, it's looking at the columns, trying to figure out the data types. Prior to this feature being available, you'd have to do this manually. Now we can just grab it, find out what makes sense, and just start building right from the get-go. And there's some opportunities to fine-tune it as we go. So the first column is called School, and SharePoint considers it a title. A title is very similar to a primary key concept in database administration. Exchange type. This is our lookup field, so we'll switch that to choice. Creation date is a date, so we'll flip that to date and time. Same with start date, same with end date. Signatory would normally be a person column, but it's not available for us to choose at this point. So we'll leave that as a single line of text, and then we'll change it later. We'll want to change our person data from a text to a person field because it gives us opportunities for automation down the road. Everything else is a number except for the last two columns, which again are choice, and that would be country and city. I click create, and SharePoint is taking all of the business value from that list, it's converting it into a table, and I'm able to make one huge leap forward for my users. I've got them online, I have their data in a centralized location, and I'm giving them so much potential for automation down the road. So this is a great first step. So I'm going to click Home. One of the things that I don't want to do throughout this build is overwhelm my new users with all of the busyness that comes with an out-of-the-box site. So I'm going to start removing some content with the intention of just staying true to that simplicity of design. We'll add content later, but for now, we're not too worried about it. We're worried about giving them the right content, not about the default experience stuff. So for now, I'm just going to give them a simple text message. So when they come in, they know what they're doing. And this is just your basic, welcome to our solution site. And I'm also going to put, a button on to give them quick access to the list. I'm just gonna come over here. Sorry about that, folks. I'm just trying to get the link. Copy link. We're gonna call this Exchange. Yep, and that is good. And while I'm here, I'm going to add a little color, and I'm going to republish. So when my users come to this site, they only see what they need to see on the main page, and then we'll clean up some of the Office 365 group entries that get added to the site. And again, there's nothing wrong with these features, but for day one, for our users, they don't need them. We only need to show them what they need on day one. We haven't gotten rid of any functionality. They can grow back into it when they're ready. But for now, we want the smoothest transition possible. So that's the end of the first demo. Let's hop back into the slides. So what did we do? We used Microsoft Excel for data validation and to create the list. We didn't put the tool in front of the problem, excuse me. We used an Office 365 group as our user's new digital home. Our Office 365 group, and later in the demo, Power Automate will be the glue that binds our solution together. We removed the clutter from the SharePoint site to give the users the easiest possible access to their tools. We used the simplicity of design when creating the solution to decrease delivery time and increase user adoption. Next theme and guiding principles. Excuse me. We're going to add value to our users through the centralization and automation of resources and solutions. Our guiding principles are going to be that we will understand the business process to try and find opportunities to add value. We'll create a hub for teamwork by creating connected solutions, and we'll centralize in a place that will work for our users. Let's get right back into the demos. We are going to modify, let me refresh the screen, our Exchange list. Excuse me while I get a drink. And we're going to add new columns that reflect the updated business process. A nice feature that I like and that I like for my end users is the expand content. If you look near the top right-hand corner, you'll see two arrows pointing out, and this allows users to maximize their screen real estate when they're in lists. Huge usability improvement. One of the things they wanted to know, well, what was the status of an agreement? So we'll simply add a status column with values that they can use to visually see and that we can use to programmatically see and to leverage. So status, we'll just create that right here. One of the nice features with the new SharePoint Online is the ability to create a column right from the middle of the list. If you have any experience with Power Apps, Power Platform, you know that if you create a column in SharePoint and you have a space between the two, you get the ugly underscore x0 200x to represent the space. This new feature takes care of all of that, which is quite nice. And Microsoft is bringing so many features, usability features for users to lists, especially in Quick Edit. There'll probably come a time in the next month or so when you come into a SharePoint list and it will have Quick Edit on by default. You don't have to go into a cell to edit the form. You're just there and you're working. This is great for power users who are essentially doing the type of data manipulation as their full-time work. We'll save that. We have a new column. I'm going to go into quick edit mode. I just want to populate this with some columns and some values, excuse me. Call that one. We'll set that one expired. Okay. So just bear with me while I get this going. This is just an initial seeding of the information. Let's drag this down. We're almost done with this stuff. That is done. Great. Next thing that we're going to do. We need to have a way to assign an agreement to a user. So we're going to create another column called owner. Quick edit, excuse me. New person column, we'll call this owner. And for the purposes of this demo, we're going to assign everything to me. that resolve. And now I'm going to backfill it just by doing drag and drop. Okay, that's resolving, and that is done. So now the team is able to split and divvy up the work to decrease the likelihood of it, agreements expiring, excuse me. And so we have this other column called signatory, and it looks like a person column, but SharePoint was not able to import it as a person column. So I'm going to delete this column and just rebuild it. That's deleted. Person signatory. Save it. And if the column, if we needed to, if it had different values in the column and we need to copy it over, we could go back into Quick Edit and start dragging that information around. We could take Steve from column A, drag him into B, Allison from A, move him into B, stuff like that. So that when you're in Quick Edit, you do have that Microsoft Excel field to get the data manipulated. And again, most of our end users in the SharePoint space are probably more comfortable inside of Excel than other tools. So we'll just do a quick update on that, and that is done. So now let's look at some of the other columns and see if we can find and add value. The total students column is a simple calculation of inbound plus outbound, and they're doing it manually in their current process. This should be something that we can easily fix and give some time back to them. So what we'll do is we'll delete this column and we will replace it with a calculated column. So I'm going to go into list properties for these next commands. I'm going to create a column. And again, this was called total students. And I'm going to use a very simple SharePoint formula. This is going to be calculated. Let that change. We are going to represent this as a number. And this formula is simply going to equal inbound students plus outbound students. And there's so much more that you can do with these calculated columns. And while I'm in here, we have a similar column to total, and that is called balance. And balance is a simple subtraction of outbound versus inbound. So we're going to delete this one again and repeat that process and create a new calculated column. Calculated column. Excuse me, I think I'm losing my voice already. I barely started. This is going to be displayed as a number. And again, another simple formula. And these formulas can be quite complex. And there's plenty of resources on Microsoft Docs to help you build them. Great, so let's go check it out. And one of the nice things that you can do in modern SharePoint lists and libraries experience is the ability to drag and move columns around. I know it's not like earth-shattering, but prior to this feature landing, I would have to edit the view or edit the list, reorder it and save it. Now I'm just doing it and it's auto-saving. For me, it's these little improvements in the tool that make life a bit easier for everyone else. One of the last things that we got out of our understanding of the business process was the ability to add comments to reflect the notes on the agreement. So we'll simply add one more column, multiple lines of text, and we'll call it notes. And there you go. So we've got the requirements, and we reflected it simply by adding status columns, owner columns, notes columns. We found some value in some of the mundane calculations that they were doing for total students and the balance of students, and automated it for them. It doesn't save their day, but it adds just a little bit of value, and that's what we're chasing after. Another new feature to SharePoint Online is the ability to rearrange and update the default new and edit form, which I have on the screen right now. In the past, you were able to do so using Power Apps. And Power Apps and the Power Platform are great tools, but you change the behavior, the way the screen looks and opens for the users, and it's not the native experience. The ability now to edit the columns and simply rearrange things to suit needs or to hide options is something that will allow you and I and our users to more easily use the tool and bring value faster to the users without having to go through the Power Apps customization route. And it's less technical debt. Let's say, for example, I am not worried about showing the signatory. I've hidden the field from the view of the form. I've moved things around to go in the order that I expect the users to do it. And I never had to leave the Microsoft List environment. This is, again, more usability and update features. So let's get to the insights that they were asking for. One of the things that they required is to have insights into their data. They wanted to know where these agreements were coming from. You'll recall that we made country a choice column, and then we looked at the data quality to make sure that it was there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into list settings and give them a very simple mechanism to view the data in a way that it's grouping it by country. We're going to create a new view. We're going to base it from all items, which is the default view that comes out of the box. And we're going to call this country. We'll take all the default columns that are in the table. But where it will be different is that we will use this group by option. And the first column that we're going to group by is country. And then we'll further group it by city. Click OK to that. And when we come back into the list using the country view, our data is now grouped. Quick insights. This is not some high-tech visualization that you'd expect from Power BI. But if my exchange agreement managers wanted to know how many agreements we had in Germany, it's a simple click to switch views, and then I'm seeing the data collated and grouped by country. I can drill in and I can see that we have 3 agreements for Germany, 1 in Mannheim, Munich, and Reutlingen. I probably didn't say that right, but you get the idea. A very simple way of doing it. Next thing that they want quick insights into is the ability to know which agreements are active and which ones are expired. So we'll go back into list settings. We'll create another view. Again, I'm basing this from all items. But instead of grouping by, we're going to filter by. Filter. Excuse me, I'm looking for that new status column. And we'll say it has to be equal to expired to show. Excuse me, folks, I'm losing my voice. Again, another quick insight. They go to view, they click on expired, and only items that have the expired column, or the expired value in the status column, will display. Excellent. But there's more that we can do. There's more things that we can make this usable. So one of the things that we're going to do next is to start formatting our views to bring more usability, more visual attention to what we have in our data. I'm going to go into all items. And we have this wonderful data in our list, and it looks very tabular. It looks like something you'd expect to see in Excel, but I still want to draw attention to our expired columns. So I'm going to format this view, and I'm going to use conditional formatting, and I'm going to create a rule. I'm going to say any status that is equal to expired, I want no fill, and we will say more styles, excuse me. We'll make that red, we'll make it bold, we'll make it stand out. That was safe. And we'll close that. So now, when you come in, you'll know exactly what's expired, at least visually. And now we're going to take this a step further, and we're going to put more of this formatting into the columns. So we're going to look at the status column, and we're going to format this column. This column formatting has been around for a year or two, but when it first came out, it was all based on JSON code. And while there were wonderful repositories on GitHub and samples that you could leverage, it was still kind of on that developer side of the fence to understand that language. And if you had to customize something from those samples, it could take a bit of work and effort on your part to do it. Microsoft has been able to bring this in a very user-friendly way. And now we're just doing choice options, or we're doing conditional formatting. It's a very nice place to be. It's a really nice way to bring visual attention to those areas that need the most work or of the most priority or concern. So for status, excuse me, we're going to edit the rule, and we're going to say if it is equal to expired, we're going to make it gray and red and click OK, and we're done. So now if I jump into country and I go back to my Germany example, we'll see that it's still showing as the normal text, but if I go back up to Australia, oops, did I use the wrong country? There it is. It highlights the color throughout. So on the first example, we had a view that had formatting, and then we added a column formatting. We move out of that view and we format the status column only, and that formatting persists no matter where you are. So I'm still able to draw visual attention to that view. I'm going to come back into my all items. And we talked about balance. The balance is a calculated column, but to the business, minus numbers are negative and positive numbers are good. And what I mean by that is the more students they have in, the more money they're making. The less students they have coming in or more coming out, they're not making as much money. So we want to visually identify this. And so again, we're going to format the column, but we're going to use a few more rules to make it more visually appealing and understandable. So I'm going to edit the rule. If the balance is greater than 0, I'm going to turn the style into a green font with a plus arrow, and save that. Close. Sorry, I have to do one more. I got out of there too quick. Manage rules, add a rule, excuse me. If balance is less than 0, no fill. Whoops, I keep doing that. More styles. Font color is going to be red, and I'm going to do the plus arrow. I'm going to save that. Okay, good. One more rule. Okay, that was, sorry. Bear with me. Click the wrong arrow. And close. So now, if you come into our solution, I'm going to zoom in a bit, you'll see that those items that have a negative value have the red arrow and are pointing down. Those values that are positive have the green arrow and pointing up. And you can see I made a little mistake on the fill color, but that's easy enough to fix, and it's not worth doing here. Excellent. Let me go back into my site. And if you recall, our users want to work better as a team by using the tools that are available to them. So one of the things that we're going to do is to create a planner plan so they can better manage the work involved with managing the agreements. So we've created the plan, they've started to use it, but we're going to bring it to the site for them to use. We don't want them to come out of their site unless they really have to. We're going to create this link on the site. And that will come up. I'm going to change the icon to planner. Very good. The next thing that I want to do is I want to give them help opportunities, self-help opportunities when they're ready. And so to do that, I've provisioned the Microsoft 365 learning pathways to their tenant, and I've created a site. The learning pathways contains curated content and maintained content from Microsoft that you're able to add directly into your tenant, and it will always be updated with the latest revisions and releases. And you can customize it and place it where it makes sense for you. I have it on a central site, but I'm going to add it as a help link on my main page. They're still going to need hands-on support. They're still going to need someone to guide them through, but for here and now, this is a step 2 for them when they're onboarded and they're having a better understanding of the tools, the processes that are working in the cloud, and now it's an option for them. I'm going to give it a meaningful name. There we go. Now let's hop back into the slide deck. Again, folks, sorry about my voice. It's a little scratchy. So what did we do? We added status and owner columns to show the current state of the agreement and assign ownership to the renewal process. We updated some text columns to choice, allowing for consistent data entry. Switching to person columns gives us opportunities to add automation using Power Automate. And we also created views and are using filtering to provide basic counts and quick access to ad hoc information. We understood the business process and found opportunities to add value. We continue to build out our users' new digital home by adding planners so our users can better manage their renewals and other workloads. We brought help to the site to give self-help options to the users. We're creating a hub for teamwork by connecting these solutions. Our digital home is centralized in a place that will work for our users. It's not overwhelming. It only has what our users need today, and tomorrow it could grow into something like Teams and have our solution presented as a tab. Our third and final theme is to connect users to technology by eliminating their mundane and manual tasks. And our guiding principles will be to drive adoption through direct support. We will hook users with technology by making their working lives easier. It will drive adoption, and we will document and advertise our wins. So let's get out of the slides and go back into more demos. Excuse me. One of the things that I want to do is to give them direct support. And Yammer is a wonderful tool to do that. It doesn't replace your help desk, but it gives them an option, an opportunity to build a knowledge community. They can pose questions, you can give answers, and as they transition into this new world online and understand the tools better, they'll have less reliance on you, but will still have the investment that you took in directly supporting them using Yammer. So again, I'm going to add Yammer to our site as a link so they have quick access to get the help that they need. Change the icon. Here it is. Excellent. Excuse me, sorry about that. Now we get into the fun stuff. At least it's the fun stuff for me. We're going to start adding some automation through Power Automate. I'm going to start by going back into my list. I'm going to click the Automate menu, and I'm going to go to Power Automate, see my flows. I'm going to create a new flow that is scheduled from blank. And all that really means is a timer. I'll give it a name. And I'll have it run once a day at 10 a.m. Excuse me. The first thing that I need to do is to get the list items from Exchange, from the Exchange listing, excuse me, that are expired. So I'm just copying the URL because I'll need it later. My first action is going to be from SharePoint, and I'm going to use get items. I'm going to set it to my site. I'm going to have it use the Exchange list, and then I'm going to expand the show advanced options. I only want to take those agreements where the end date has already passed. So to do that, I will use a filter query, and I'll say end date is less than or equal to. I'm going to put two single quotes, and I'm going to come back into it, and I'm going to use an expression. And the expression is going to be UTC now, which is essentially today's current date and time, or get now if you're from the SQL server side of the world. I'm going to change this and give it a meaningful name. I'm going to test. It's important to test as you're building Power Automate flows out incrementally so you can catch any mistakes before you get too far into the work. Test, and this is going to run, and I want it to come back with expired already. So as it runs, green is our friend, green check marks are even better. When I click on the item, I can see that it has data for me to download. If I do download it, I'm going to get a bunch of gobbledygook, but that gobbledygook is the data for those items that have expired. So let's get back in and do our next step. I'm going to update those rows. So we're coming in here and we're looking for things that have expired. So right now we have this one example row that has expired, but we want to see if any others change. So we're going to update. So SharePoint, update item. I'm going to give this a meaningful name one more time. Oh, good. It's remembered my site, makes life easier for me. Exchange. ID is going to come from the previous step, which is get items expired. It's changed it from that initial action into an apply to each, which is essentially a loop because we have more than one value coming back. I'm going to set title back to title because that was a required column. And I want to set the status now. And the status value will be expired. All the other columns will stay the same. Save and test. Okay, that's good. So if I refresh, I'm hoping to see more red rows that are expired. And there we go. So the flow is now said, hey, you're expired, let's set the value. So now our users don't need to go look and search for what's expired. Let's edit again. And now we're going to work on doing reminder emails. To do that, we're going to need a variable, and that variable will be used to store how many days in advance that we're going to use for our warning messages, if you will. So new step, variable. And we'll initialize a new variable, get down there. And it's going to be a string. Right, so now we're going to build an expression. We're going to look for the date that is today plus 30 days. So to do that, we're going to use the add days function. We're going to use our friend UTC now to get the current date and time. We're going to add 30 days, but then we're going to format it as year, 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 month, 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 day, day. Click OK. All right, and now I'm going to test that. It looks like I made a mistake. I don't see a mistake. Sorry, had an extra space at the end that I didn't see. Save. Now I'm going to test because I just want to see what the date comes back with, and I want to make sure that for the purposes of the demo, that the exchange data has a test value that will actually trigger. So I'm looking for August 20th as my reminder date, and we do have an August 20th. So when we're done retrieving the rows for the next step and then running our email, we should get information back. So let's add another step. Get items. SharePoint. Do you have my list in here still? Philly Exchange, we do. Exchange. We're going to do another OData query filter. End date equal to, or EQ, 2 single quotes, and then I'm going to put in the var reminder date from our dynamic data. I'm just going to call this reminder. Save and test again. I'm sorry, I thought I test. Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? I made a typo. It's end date, not end. And this is the reason why I like to do this iteratively to catch mistakes before I get too far down the path. Green success. Click to download. More gobbledygook, but it means I got something, which is great. There was a time when you didn't get that click to download and it actually gave you the metadata, which I preferred over this other feature. Right now, so we're going to send an email as a reminder. We're going to send it to our owners. There'd be individual owners, and you probably noticed that the email action switched to an apply to each again, and that's simply to loop through all of the results that we got back. So the owner email, we're going to say reminder. We can use the dynamic data, and we'll put title in there and reminder agreement expiring soon. And you have all of the rich text options that you'd expect if you're sending an Outlook email. But for the cases of this, we're just going to put in the link to the item. We're going to save it one last time. We're going to test. Okay, so that has run successfully. And if everything is working as it should, I will get an email reminder. And while that's happening, we can't control how fast the emails come in, but they generally come in pretty quick. I'm going to go back to my list, or sorry, my site. Good, good, good. And there's something that I want to show that is outside of the scope of this, but essentially at this point, we have our solution. And so one of the nice things that, and one of the important things that we should all do is to document what we've done, because it's a win. It's something that we should get credit for, and users should understand what we brought to the table for value. And so it's a great idea for you to create a solution showcase, something very similar to this page, this site, that shows you what the solution is that you built and what value your users can expect to receive from it. We're just talking like executive summary information. Welcome to the site. Here's the value. This is what it's going to look like. This is the product that you're going to get. Highlight the value. Here's our reminder email. Here's our Yammer support group. Here's our planner plan. Here's our JSON column formatting in action. We've outlined it, and so now it will drive adoption because people will know what they're getting. So let me check one last time for the email. I can't tell you why it's not here. I can tell you that it works every other time I do this demo. The email's there, it's a reminder, and it's a quick link. Let's hop out of the demo and go back into the slide deck. So what did we do? We added a new Yammer group to provide a direct line of support. As adoption grows, the need for direct support will reduce. Using Yammer as a knowledge community will help retain the organizational knowledge and empower the users of our solution. Excuse me. We use Power Automate to identify and make agreements expired. We send out email to agreement owners 30 days out from the expiration to allow them a chance to renew before the deadline. And we'll let Power Automate do the remembering and the updating. Finally, we documented our win, our new solution, and showcase it so people can understand the value to future users. This will drive adoption by reducing the sell. Our solution, we're online. Our agreements are online and they're in a centralized location. They're backed by an Office 365 group. This is a very future-proof thing to do. They can move to Teams if they want to. They can add on other Office 365 elements that will just plug into that group. We've given them the foundations for success at Microsoft 365. Our solution has what our users need today with the potential to expand in the future. We've brought value through automation of status updates and reminder emails, and some of those little calculations as well. We've updated the list to reflect their business processes, and we've provided insights by country, expired, and other types of quick info and ad hoc reporting. We support and we've given resources to our users. And finally, we showcased our solution so others can understand and benefit from SharePoint Lists and Power Automate. There's so much to know about SharePoint. It's an ever-changing product, and the features are coming out, it would seem, daily. If you want to know more, please visit the SharePoint blog site. You'll learn the best practices, news, trends directly from the SharePoint team. If you want to get inspired, if you're new to SharePoint, you want to know what the art of the possible is, go to the SharePoint Lookbook site. You can see their best-in-class sites. It explains how they're built, what web parts are used, and better yet, you can provision them into your own tenant. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you, Philly, for having me. Again, let's connect at normyoung.ca, at norm-young on LinkedIn, and stormin_30 on Twitter. I would appreciate if you could give me speaker feedback using the links provided, and also for the event. Thanks again for having me, Philly. It's been a pleasure. It's great to talk about SharePoint Lists and Power Automate. At this point, if there happens to be any questions, I'm happy to talk about them and answer them, I hope. So I'm going to stop the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. And Jason, can you tell me if there's any questions in the Q&A window, please?
Let's see. You have a groupie. You have a groupie.
Okay. I have to open that up. No audio. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to. Okay, so I owe Renat, hopefully I'm saying that right, $5 for that post. Nancy Shard, 100%. I will share my slide deck. I'll do it on my personal website, and I'll share that out before the day's over. I don't see any others, but for the people that did attend, the things that are done with this conversion are just the beginning. There's so much that you can do with Power Automate and simply with SharePoint lists. Are you going to create the next big application or web app or ERP? No. But you're going to find a lot of users in your own organizations that are not covered by those other apps. Those other people that are kind of left behind that are still using paper forms to get their job done, and you're going to bring value to them that way. So we're coming up on the top of the hour, and that's going to end my time. So Renat, thank you again for those kind words, and Nancy, I'll be sure to post that information out. Everyone, thanks so much. I'm signing off for now.
Thanks, Norm. That was great.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.